Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another video. In this video I'll be talking about textures and adding to our level. So we just have this little game right now, which is kind of boring because we only have one block for our or one ground for our ball to stand on and jump. So just a reminder, this is where we left off. We made our game 3D look nice when we jump, add some nice animations to it. So in this video I'll be talking about level design. We're going to be adding to our level. I'll talk about textures and what textures are and how to add them into our game, and I'll be talking about skyboxes and also maybe um, maybe even shaders. I might talk about shaders too. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we'll cover is adding a texture to our ball. Now, basically, or texture to any object. Basically, what a texture is, and is an image that wraps around our object to make it look nice, give it some depth to it. Okay, so let's get started on textures first. But first, before we do that, I'll cover shaders a little bit. Basically, what a shader is, it adds some depth to our object, adds some light to it, some shadows, cool stuff like that. So what you have to do, just click on the ball. If you'll go down, you'll see the mesh renderer. If we click on materials, you can see that it has the default material here. And if we go down, this is its material that it has, and it has no texture. We want to change our default color or default image because that's kind of boring. So to do this, right click in our project pane right here in the assets folder. Right click, click create, and then go down and hit material. Just like that. Okay, and let's call this ball wood because I'm gonna use a little wood object or wood texture to wrap around our ball. Okay, so now I'm just gonna be showing you some of the settings. Now before we have a lot of settings here. Now before we play around with that, I'm just going to whoops. I'm just gonna select the ball. I'm gonna go down to our default diffuse, and if we click on the default diffuse, we have our main color of the ball, which is now white. And we can change that. We can change our ball wood, or if I select the ball wood here, we can change its color. So we could change, I'm just going to change it to a little bit of a darker color just so you guys can see this. So now to see how it looks on an object, all you have to do is get it and just drag it and hold it over different objects and you can see how it looks. I'll just put it back here. Now if we drag it onto our object and then release, that's our new color for our object. So if we select our ball, go down, you can see that now we have our ball wood. Now I'm gonna change, you can make it red if you want, or you can make it whatever color you want. But since I'm going to be adding a texture, I'm just gonna leave that at white. Um, just like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that at white. Just take a look. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now we're gonna actually add a texture to our ball. Now to do this, all you have to do to find your textures, Google Images. I'm just gonna open that up right here. Has a lot of textures that you could get. So we wanted a wood texture, so I'll just type in. I want a rough wood, so I'm gonna type in rough wood texture, and I'm gonna put it as seamless. Basically, that's saying it has no border and it's all good to go. So as you can see, we have a lot of choices here. You don't have to choose the texture I choose, but you can choose whatever texture you want. I recommend that it's a square, so the image is like, say 600 by 600 is good because it's a perfect square. 600 by 450 it might appear on your ball a little bit weird, but I'll just scroll down here and find a good texture. You know what? This one's fine. Actually, that one is too small. If you're finding a texture, I recommend it being above 600 by 600 pixels because that will be the best quality. So I'll find another one. This one looks good actually. So all I have to do, I have to right click that, click save picture, and then I don't have to save that picture. All I have to do, all I have to do is drag it right into here. So I can I can just choose this one, or maybe you do have to save it. I'll just save the picture, just save it as something random, and then I'll just minimize that. I'll minimize this, and then, or don't have to, go to pictures, and then we could get our picture and then drag it in, and that's our texture. So we have our texture already. So now to save the texture onto our ball, all you have to do, you select the ball wood, or you can select the ball like this and go down to the ball wood. It does not matter, but for this I'm just going to select the ball wood. You can see that our ball does not have a texture. Adding the texture to our ball is as simple as getting the texture, dragging it, selecting our ball wood, getting the texture, and dragging it into the texture slot. And now you can see our ball has a texture added to it. But that texture looks a little bit weird. It doesn't look as good quality. We're going to focus on changing that right now. So we're going to focus on making our texture look a little bit better. So all we have to do is go to the texture and the x-axis, make it about 3, and that already looks a little bit better. Maybe increase it a little bit. No, that's too much. What about 2? 2 looks pretty good. Just gonna try 3 here. I think 3 is a little too much. I think, or maybe 2 is a little too little. So we could do 2.5, or actually we could just do 2. So that's perfect. And again, you could just play around with this and see how you find it, how it's good. But I just want to remind you to save your work often, just as your computer can crash, something can go wrong, and you could lose all your work that you've done. So I just recommend saving often. So that's good. We have our texture on our ball. Okay, so now we're going to import a texture for our ground. Now for this, I'm not really going to quite make it a ground texture. I might make it another wood texture, but I'm going to make it a lighter wood so it's easier to pick up. So again, just go to Google Images, and we could just type in a wood seamless texture. Okay, so this is nice. We have a lot of woods that we could select for our texture. Let's see. This looks good. I know it's not a perfect square, but since our ground is more of a rectangle, it doesn't really have to be a perfect square. So again, I could just save this picture as ground wood. Save it as a JPEG. Make sure you do save it as a JPEG. And click save. And that's just because Unity typically responds to JPEG a lot better. Now we're going to be getting another texture in here, so again, just right click on our project plane, create new folder, and let's call this folder textures just to stay a little bit more organized. Let's drag our texture into there. And so now we can just go to our pictures and then find our ground wood and then just drag it into our project plane. And now again, you can just find the default diffuse, and there's no texture here. So all you have to do is drag your ground wood into the texture. If it lets me. Oh, it's not letting me. I forgot a step. I'm just going to drag this into textures and show you guys right now. Okay, so what I forgot to do is create a new material in our assets folder. So just right click in the folder, click create, and then go to material, and we'll call this ground wood. Okay, so that's good. So now we can just get our texture, or we'll just drag this back to our assets, get our texture, and then drag it into there, and then we could drag our texture right onto our wood. Now as you can see, this is a very good example of what your ground will look like, or what an item will look like if you don't change the position of the wood. So now let's just drag this back to our textures, and I'm just going to make one more folder to stay even more organized, and we'll call this materials. And then we'll take both of our materials and drag both of those into our materials. So now we have our materials folder, our scripts, and our textures all organized. Okay, so now to change this, all you have to do, we could change our X tiling to 2. It's not enough, maybe 5. We'll take a look at that, see how it's looking. Yeah, it looks okay. We'll try 8, 9, 12. 12 maybe a little bit too much. And let's increase our Y a little bit too. Actually, maybe our Y looks okay. So that looks okay for our ground. Our wood is nice and textured and it looks nice. So now if we go ahead and play our game, we can see that we have materials for both and it looks nice. So now we're gonna be talking about adding a skybox. But before I'm going to talk about skyboxes, actually this is bothering me a little bit, how our wood is really small. So there is a good way to change this. As you can see, our ratio for our cube is a 10:1 ratio. So we want to make sure we have a 10:1 ratio on our material. So that's a 12:1 ratio. That's not so good. So we want to make sure it's a 10:1 ratio. But the wood still looks a little bit small, so we could make it even 5 to 0.5. So our bricks look much bigger and it looks better. So now I'm just going to save that and we'll click play and check it out. So that looks much better. Okay, so now we'll talk about skyboxes. Okay, so a skybox is basically an area which fills our sky, so it adds a nice sky view to our background. So what I'm just going to do for that, I'm going to right click in the area here. I'm going to hover over import package, and then you should see skyboxes right here. Just click on skyboxes, and then these are all the default skyboxes that Unity has made in case you don't have any that you've made. So you can just check all of these and hit import, and those will import them right into your game. So okay, so you can see that we have a standard assets folder created, and inside of that are skyboxes, and these are all the skyboxes that we have. Okay, now to actually add our skyboxes to our game, as you can see, we have a lot more. These are actually our skyboxes. Sorry, these are not our skyboxes. These are actually our skyboxes. Now I just want to let you know that when you drag a skybox into the game, make sure you're not dragging the whole texture folder in. Make sure you select the texture and drag the skybox. So to add the skybox, we want to select our main camera because that's where we are going to be adding our skybox. So, and we'll add a new component. You want to go under rendering and then hit skybox, and that adds a skybox component. And you can see that we don't have a skybox component added. So we're gonna add maybe a sunny skybox, a nice sunny sky. We'll just check these out. We'll check and see. So all we have to do I'll go in the game mode so we can view this. Because when you're in the scene mode and you apply the skybox, you will not be able to see it. You have to be in game mode. So, whoops, what happened there? Okay, so select our game mode. We can select the skybox we want. Just drag it in there. What is going on? Okay, so we can select the skybox we want, and then we could click the material folder, and then as you can see, we have all these skyboxes. But this is not what I want. Okay, so we can go to our skyboxes, and we could drag our custom skybox onto there. So this one looks pretty good. We could check this one. This one is great if you're making a horror game looks like it. So let's check this one. You can play around with these and add whatever one you want. I like this one, Sunny 2 Skybox. You could play around with it and see whichever one you like to add. Now another way to add these, you could just hit the little circle here beside the custom Skybox, and you could select your scene. Now you could select Ballwood, you could select the background that we chose from Google Images, so you can also select textures from Google Images, but I'm just going to use the Sunny 2 Sky right here. And so we'll go ahead and save that. So when we play our game, we have a nice skybox added to our game. So that looks quite nice. And like I said, you cannot see it in your scene view, only in your game view. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is creating more cubes for our ball to go and stand on, and that'll be it for this video once I'm done those, because we have been going on for quite a while so far. I believe we're already 15 minutes in. So what I'm going to be doing now to create our new ground object, I'm going to just close all this and select our assets folder. And now we're going to be creating a prefab. Now what a prefab is, it's a genius thing that Unity has come up with since its earliest days. And what you can do, it basically helps you duplicate objects or add more of that object really easy. So all you have to do, we want to add more of our ground so we can actually have our ball jump and everything like that. So we want to drag our ground into our assets folder, and now we've created a prefab. And as you can see, this turns blue. So what we can do now, we can just drag another ground, and you can see when I drag the ground objects in here, it creates one. But we want to drag it right here so it overlays right over top. So what we can do now, as you can see, it has created another ground object. So I'm just going to move this object over a little bit, just like this, and up, just like that. So now we have a couple of cubes. Now I can create another ground object, move this one over even a little bit more, move that up like this, and you can also even rotate it too. So we could select our object or select the rotation tool, and we can rotate our object just like this. So you can just play around with this and do whatever you want. I'm just going to add a couple more, just make it a little bit more better. So I'm just going to drag that over, maybe drag it up a little bit, drag it over, and I'm just playing around with this right now. You guys don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. Like I said, you can play around with this and do whatever you want. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'll move it over a little bit more, and then I'll just add one more. So we'll add a ground object in, and we'll drag this up and over. Perfect. Okay, so now we have all our ground objects created. So first I'm just going to rename this to ground 1, rename this to ground 2, rename this one to ground 3, and ground 4 and 5 right over here. So ground 4 and ground 5. This is just so I can keep track of which one's which. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is good. So we can go ahead and save our game now and play it. And you can see that we have a nice little game to play where we can jump with our ball. Whoops. And this is actually a good thing to end on, because as you can see, our ball just keeps on falling and it does not respawn. What we're going to be covering in our next video is making the ball actually respawn into our level. So I'm just going to try to get to the top here. Oh, it looks like that's a little bit high. Now this is what I mean where you could play, this is what I mean where you could play around with that. So I'm just going to bring that a little bit more down because it's a little bit high. And I'll bring this down a little bit more too. And then we can go ahead and save that, and we could play it. And now we can see that we have a really nice little game to play. So we'll try this one more time, get some speed, and we got up just barely. And I rolled off. So yeah, we'll be covering respawning so our ball doesn't fall endlessly. So I'll see you guys in that next video.